Welcome to Expand Your Empire, the podcast where women stop deferring wealth and start building financial power. I'm Amanda Taylor, investor, strategist, and disruptor of outdated money rules. It's time to own your worth, grow your assets, and build a legacy that lasts.
All right, welcome back, Empire Builders. We are back in Colorado. I have been all over the place. I was in San Diego, I was in New York, I was back in San Diego, I am now in Colorado, and I am leaving tomorrow for Dubai. So I am going to pack. I'm going to record 3 episodes for us today. So I wanted to get into, we've been talking about earning versus owning. We've been talking a lot about mindset and getting into the feel of, we deserve to be owning. We can get into the mindset of owning, all of these things we've been talking about. But what does that really mean? We talked a little bit last week about the stock market and all this fear around it. And what does that look like to then diversify? So let's talk about it. My entire platform, Expand Your Empire, was built on alternative investment strategies, right? I didn't get into all of this because I was a finance guru. I dropped my finance class in college because I didn't understand it, okay? I was not working for any big investment bank. I didn't have any real knowledge. Today we're going to get into kind of my genesis story in all of this. And when I started this whole company, this whole platform, it really was to educate women on all the different ways we could be investing outside of the S&P 500, because me personally, as a self-employed person, I didn't have a retirement account that some employers contributing to, right? No one was coming to save me. So I started learning as much as I could. And then as I'm learning this, I'm like, why is nobody teaching us this stuff? Why aren't we learning this? Not just women, everyone, right? Why are they not teaching us this stuff? So that's my mission. I'm going to teach this stuff, right? I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a financial expert. I'm someone who wanted to learn. I learned, and now I'm utilizing these strategies and I'm teaching them to other women, and I am mentoring women to learn who they are, what they're worth, what they want in life, and then how to build a strategy around that, utilizing these tools. I am completely agnostic to what you choose to invest in. I just want you to be armed with all of the options available so you can make the right choice for you. So today I did want to get into that kind of origin story, right? How did I even get here? Because I just told you I'm going to Dubai tomorrow. Like, what is my life? How did I even get here? The more I tell it, I look back and it really is that what happened? This one tiny, seemingly insignificant moment actually changed everything. So I was in dental practice management for about 15 years. And even that, right? I graduated, I think I've said this on here before. I wanted to be on Broadway. That was like my dream. And God love them, my parents were like, over my dead body, are we paying for you to go to college and end up being a teacher? No offense to teachers. I was married to one, have nothing but respect for him and for all teachers. But they were, not convinced that I was going to be an amazing actress, Broadway actress, although I think I'm pretty talented. No, I'm just kidding. But I went to school and I got a marketing degree. I just got a business degree because that's what they told me to do. And I got out of it with zero fervor or want or desire or dream for anything. And I honestly changed jobs. I say like people changed underwear. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a purpose. I just wanted to get a job. So when I hear people talk about how they got into investing or real estate or building wealth, I think people expect some really polished origin story like, oh, I always knew that I wanted to build this wealth portfolio, or I studied real estate markets for years before made my first move, or grew up in a family of investors, so it was just natural for me to go down that path. But that's not me. That's not even close. It's not my story at all. So I ended up, after multiple iterations of jobs and careers, that I was in dental practice management 15 years. I was all about systems. I was about operations, patient flow, staffing issues, problem solving, all the moving parts that keep a dental practice running smoothly. And honestly, I was really good at it, and I actually enjoyed it. And I thought that was just going to be my lane forever. Like, this is what I do, this is who I am. It's a job, and then I go on with my life. And then I moved from Texas to Colorado for my ex husband's job, and I got a dental office job. He was semi retired. He was working 2 or 3 days a week. And I had met this woman, and this is the most casual, non dramatic way you can possibly imagine. She just said to me, "Hey, my husband and his partner just started this real estate thing. They need somebody a couple hours a week. Are you interested?" And that was it. That was the whole pitch. There was no dramatic pause, no moment where I felt this deep intuition like, yes, this is my calling. No lightning bolt or divine intervention. It was just this very simple, very boring, sure, why not? Like, I was just kind of shrugging and like, okay, I'll check it out. And somehow, that one tiny yes, I guess I barely even thought about it at the time. I just needed a job. It ended up completely redirecting the next decade of my life. So suddenly, I'm inside this whole new ecosphere. And let me be honest with you here, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I was learning as I went. These guys are flipping houses, they're creating deals, they're wholesaling real estate, which I didn't even know was a thing. I'm soaking up everything like a sponge. And I'm learning how to do the paperwork. I'm learning how to source deals. And that is how I learned. It's not all HGTV. There's no training beforehand, no course I had taken. I didn't know what I was doing. And yet, I loved it. I hadn't done anything you were supposed to do to learn, but I just sat and absorbed and started doing. I started with exactly zero experience. And in the beginning, I was working those like 3 to 5 hours a week on random little side things that I barely understood, just trying to figure out what everybody was talking about half the time. But here's the thing, even though I had really no clue what I was doing, I really enjoyed it. It woke up something inside me that I didn't even really know was asleep. There was this creative mindset to it, this strategy and this problem solving element. And I just kept saying, you can do that? I didn't know you could do that. You can make money doing that? And because I had really spent all those years in operations and systems, I really connected with the project management side of this. Like, okay, I get this part, I can track this, I can organize this. And I didn't realize that at the time, but this real estate investing was activating a part of me that had been dormant for years. The part of me that wanted to build something bigger than just a job. The part of me that wanted ownership and not just a paycheck. I wanted a life that felt more expansive and more mine. And I want to pause here to say something really important, because I think women need to hear this way more often than we do. I did not feel ready when I started. I wasn't confident. I didn't know the terminology. I would sit in rooms, literally sit in those meetings, and people would be throwing around these terms, ARV and cap rate and cash on cash return. Really, I just nodded, thought I knew what they were talking about, and then I would go home and Google everything later. I wasn't sitting on this pile of savings. I wasn't some financial expert. I didn't have this perfectly curated plan. I was just willing to learn, willing to ask what probably seemed like really basic questions, but willing to be in the rooms where I didn't fully understand, but I was willing to take imperfect action and figure it out as I went. And those early weeks and months, those little 3 to 5 hour weeks where I was barely doing anything, slowly started to turn into 10 hours and then 20. And then before I even realized what was happening, I was working full time with the people who were teaching me this stuff. That curiosity had turned into competence, and the competence turned into confidence. And eventually, that confidence turned into ownership. Because after a while, being part of someone else's company, it wasn't enough anymore. I wanted to build my own thing. I wanted to see what I was capable of. So I stepped out on my own. I did it. And that's when everything really took off. I started my own investing company. I started building my own portfolio. And here's what I love. I didn't limit myself to just one type of real estate. I wanted to try everything because I wanted to learn. Because each strategy teaches you something completely different. I flipped houses. That's what I'd been doing. I learned the BRRRR method, the buy, renovate, refinance, and rent, repeat. I did private lending, which was a whole education in itself. I ran short-term rentals. I learned about DSCR loans, portfolio loans, creative financing, gap funding, all these strategies that, like I said, no one teaches you in a class. You only learn them by being in the game. And look, I also made mistakes, real mistakes, the kind that cost actual money and time and sleep. I had contractors who just vanished halfway through a project. I had renovations that went completely sideways and blew past the budget. I had deals that were so stressful, I'm pretty sure they aged me 10 years. And I want to be really clear about this. Real estate is not without risk. You can lose money. Things can go wrong. Markets shift, deals fall through. There is no guarantee, and anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to you. But what I learned is that every mistake, every hard lesson, every deal that didn't go the way I planned, it all became part of my education. Every problem I ran into sharpened me. Every deal, good or bad, it gave me another skill, another layer of understanding that I could carry into the next one. And yes, there were costs, but there is also growth. And somewhere inside of all that chaos and learning and just figuring it out as I went, real estate did something for me that was actually way bigger than just making money. It rewrote my identity. I didn't become a different person. I became a more capable, more expressed version of myself. The version that was always there but had never been fully activated or given permission to come out. Real estate was where that version of me finally emerged. Now, I want to shift gears here for a second because I want to speak directly to you. Woman to woman, I'm not telling you this story to convince you that you need to go flip houses tomorrow or run Airbnbs or go hunt for your first duplex this weekend. This isn't a pitch for real estate. I'm sharing this story because real estate was the first time in my life that I truly understood something that we just aren't taught. Income is not the same as wealth, and wealth is not built by accident. But the beginning of wealth sometimes is. Real estate was my accidental doorway into understanding what wealth actually looks like. And I want you to know that you can have your own doorway too. And it doesn't have to be real estate. It might be something completely different. But you deserve to know what's actually possible for you, because here's the thing that most women don't realize. Real estate is not just one lane. It's not just flipping houses or being a landlord. It's an entire universe of possibilities. And I think one of the biggest misunderstandings that we have about building wealth through real estate is that we think it's all the same level of involvement. Like you're either all in or you're not in at all. And that is just not true. So let me break this down because this is really important. Some women love the hands-on world that I started in, the flips, the burrs, the renovations, the hustle of managing projects and making things happen. This is active real estate. You're finding deals, you're overseeing rehabs, you're making decisions every single day. And if you love that, if you're energized by being in the mix, this path can be incredibly rewarding. You're building sweat equity, you're learning at a rapid pace, and you're directly controlling the outcome. But here's what nobody tells you. Active real estate is work. It is not passive income, even though people love to call it that. When you are flipping houses or managing renovations or dealing with tenants yourself, you are trading time for money in a very real way. Yes, the returns can be fantastic and you're building equity and wealth, but you are also building another job. And for some women, that is perfect. They want to be involved. They want to learn the skills. They want to be the one calling the shots. But for a lot of women I talk to, especially who've already got demanding careers or businesses or families, they don't want another job. They're already maxed out and running at capacity. The idea of adding property management or contractor coordination or tenant emergencies to their plate, that is not appealing. That is not freedom. That is just more responsibility, and that is not what we're after. So there's what I call the middle lane, and that is where you still own real estate, but maybe it's long-term rentals. Maybe it's a small portfolio, but you have a property management team handling the day-to-day. You're still involved in bigger decisions, but you're not the one getting the 2 a.m. call about a broken water heater. You're not screening tenants. You're not coordinating repairs. This is semi-passive. You still have to manage the managers, so to speak. You still have to keep an eye on the properties and review the financials and make strategic decisions, but it is significantly less hands-on than doing everything yourself. And this is really good middle ground for a lot of people. You get the wealth building benefits of owning real estate, the cash flow. You get the tax advantages. You get the appreciation, but you're not sacrificing your entire life to do it. So here's where it gets really interesting, and this is the part I wish more women knew about earlier in the wealth building journey. There is a whole world of truly passive real estate investing that most of us are never even introduced to. And I'm talking about private lending, real estate funds, syndications, commercial deals, equity stakes in larger projects. These are the quiet, steady, really sophisticated wealth building strategies that we're not usually invited to. And let me explain what I mean by truly passive, because I think this gets confused a lot with private lending, for example. You are essentially becoming the bank. You're lending money to other investors who are doing the flips or developments, and you're earning interest on that capital. So you're not managing properties. You're not dealing with contractors. You're not involved in the day-to-day at all. Your money is working, but you're not. Now with syndications, you're pooling your capital with other investors to buy larger commercial deals like apartment complexes, office buildings, retail spaces. Now these are deals that you could never access on your own. So you own a piece of the asset. You receive distributions. You benefit from the appreciation, but you're not managing anything. There's a sponsor team that handles all of that. With real estate funds, you're investing in a diversified portfolio of properties or debt instruments. You're getting the returns, but you don't have to go out and source the deals. You don't have to manage anything or make individual property decisions. Those strategies are designed for people who want their wealth to grow without adding more to their plate. And honestly, for hiring women who are already successful and already busy managing a lot, this is often the smarter path. Not because active real estate is bad. It's not. I did it. I learned an incredible amount from it. But because at a certain point, your time becomes more valuable than the marginal extra return you might get from being hands-on. But here's what breaks my heart. So many people don't even know these options exist. And it is not because we can't understand them, but because no one bothers to explain them to us. No one pulls us aside and says, hey, this exists. You can do this. Let me show you how. Instead, we get sold a bunch of courses on how to flip houses or find deals or be a landlord, which is great if that's what you want. But nobody is talking about the strategies that are actually designed for wealth preservation and growth without the hustle. And that is a huge disservice because the women I work with, they don't need another job. They need assets. They need strategies that match where they are in life and what they actually want their wealth to do for them. And if you're a woman who already earns well, you're already responsible, you're already managing a life and a household and a whole career, then you deserve access to strategies that actually match the level of woman you are. You deserve ownership and not just income. And I think that is why this next phase of my work feels so important to me, because we are done with women being left out of the wealth conversation. We are done being told we're not ready yet or not knowledgeable enough. And usually we're telling that to ourselves. We're done being handed the scraps of financial education. That ends here. So before we wrap up this episode, let me tell you what's coming next, because I am really excited about this. This episode, like I said, it's just the beginning of a larger conversation. I'm just going to do a series of 3. This is the first one. We're going to explore some different asset classes that women actually need to understand if they want real sovereign wealth, not hustle wealth, not burnout wealth, not this work yourself into the ground so that someday maybe you can finally rest kind of wealth. I'm talking about mature wealth building, asset-based wealth, ownership wealth, the kind that creates security and freedom and options. Real estate was my first doorway, but it's definitely not the only one. So in the next couple of episodes, we're going to talk about private lending more, what it actually is, how it works, why it's one of the most underutilized strategies for growing that income and getting more into investing. Other alternative investments, we're going to talk about cash value life insurance and how it's used as a wealth tool, not just insurance. Income streams that are strategic and actually aligned with the way high achieving women want to build wealth. So if you want a framework that ties all of this together, the identity shifts, the sequencing, the strategy, the actual path where we go from earning income to building wealth, I want you to put your name on the wait list for the Wealth Continuum. The wait list doesn't obligate you to anything. It just puts you first in line when it's ready, and it gives you the full breakdown before anyone else gets to see it. So the link is in the show notes if you want to check it out. And whether you join or not, I hope you'll stay close, because this is really the beginning of something bigger. A new era of women building wealth, real wealth in our own way, on our own terms. So I will see you in the next episode. Keep building.
If this lit something up, share it, review it, and get in the room. Join the Expand Your Empire community and start turning wisdom into wealth. You're not too late, and you're not doing this alone.